This is started. Hey, I guess we're live. We were just reviewing some basic sign language here. And for those of you who aren't acquainted with sign language, oh, by the way, this is Andy Hall. I guess we should do introductions. This is Andy Hall. You're watching the Laughing in Disbelief channel. With me today is YouTuber, atheist, grumpy old dude. I'm not going to refer to him as the notorious G.O.D., but I may just refer to him as Ed. I don't know. We're going to see how things develop. How you doing today, Ed? I guess I'm calling you Ed. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me on. So, like Andy said, I'm the grumpy old dude. I am an atheist. My channel is mostly focused on battling, racists and hate groups, but I do some other stuff on there too. So, little laughs here and there.
Right. Yeah, I've watched a few of your videos, and they are very educational. There's a lot of stuff
thank you.
I had no idea about. And I just want to say, being a white guy of a certain age, especially living in the Boston area, you know stuff about racism, sure, but there's like garden variety kind of racism. It's not like, oh, that kind of racism. And so, I was looking at stuff like the creativity movement. I thought the creativity movement might have been like kindergartners playing with finger paints or something like that, or some kind of art movement in the early 19th century. But apparently, the creativity movement has nothing to do with arts and crafts.
No. They're definitely a major hate group. Unfortunately, with everything going on right now, they are growing in numbers and popularity, unfortunately. So hopefully I can, let people know before they think about going into that they are a cult. And it's not just about hate. They are a cult, and they will not only, get a bunch of money out of you, but they will make your life miserable. Period.
So that's interesting. I want to unpack that a little bit. So it's a cult, but it's not a Christian cult, is it?
No, they are an anomaly in the atheist community. They do not believe in God or gods. They do not believe in heaven or hell or demons or any devils or anything like that. They claim to believe in nature, history, logic, and common sense. And their race is their religion.
That's fascinating. I read about that. Their race is their religion. So how does that work? Are there church services? Are there what?
There are actually church services that they go to. And they, like I said, they preach this pseudoscience about nature, and they preach the tenet that what is good for the white race is of the highest virtue. What is bad for the white race is the ultimate sin. And that's a religious belief, but it's a dangerous religious belief, because it should be what is good for mankind and the human race should be your highest virtue. If you're promoting something that hurts anybody of any race or gender, that should be considered absolutely sinful.
So so once again, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around what a service looks like. Are there songs? Is there singing?
No, they don't get into singing or anything. They might play some music, but it's going to be, white supremacist music after they have their little gathering or whatever. They don't actually ask you to pay tithes like a, regular church or anything like that. Donations are always welcome, of course. It's a, of course. Yeah, it's a religion. They'll always take donations, and they try and push their books. Their three main books are Nature's Eternal Religion, The White Man's Bible, and Salubrious Living.
And salubrious.
Yeah.
living.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to go with the last first. Tell me about what is salubrious living?
Salubrious living is following a diet of, if you can stay with raw, uncooked nuts, grains, cereals, fruits and vegetables, don't eat meat. According to them, man was not designed to eat any meat. We are supposed to eat everything else, and keep yourself in shape, work out, blah, 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 whatever. Wow. Don't drink coffee or any caffeine or anything like that. Yeah.
Wow, that's a tough lift.
Don't smoke cigarettes, which that one I always struggled with. I smoke like a broken freight train. So
I just want to say hello to some of the people in the chat. Hey, Brainbug. Amber, I believe you may know Amber.
Yeah, it's my beautiful wife.
Beautiful wife, very good. CH2 and all those other numbers, and Joan, and of course Chris Mallard's in there kicking around. So this is fascinating. They don't eat meat, because I would think that that kind of movement would be all about, I mean, this is just a stereotype I have in my head, I guess, that they like be really meat centered, if anything.
No, they are more vegan than anything. They try and stay away from anything processed, including processed cheese. You don't drink any kind of milk. You stick with water and fresh juices.
Wow. So these are evil atheist vegans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they're violent, evil atheist vegans.
Yeah, that's the main thing. They can be very, very, very violent. There's been a couple of times where their members have gone on shooting sprees. They've been caught for making bombs, different major acts of violence. So be wary.
Wow. Oh, yeah. So before we jump over to that, I want to talk about the white man's Bible. Now, what's in the white man's Bible?
The white man's Bible is mostly the tenets of the church. They have 16 commandments. I'm not going to list all of them. There's a website called Creativity Alliance. You can go check it out if you want. Just remember that it is a hateful organization. And if you even think for 1 second that anything in there sounds good, please come talk to me first, because I was a member of that cult for a long time, and I will tell you how it's wrong.
Yeah.
But the white man's Bible covers the 16 commandments. There are 4 basic beliefs of nature, history, logic, and common sense, which they really don't have any common sense.
Yeah.
And it goes into the history of the church and talks about how the white race should speak Latin for some reason, that we are supposed to be the Holy Roman Empire, and just a bunch of other pseudo beliefs.
All right. So I guess, once again, what's really great about cults is that they have all these ideas, and they're kind of like juxtapositioned in the most illogical way in this weird package of dysfunction, dude. Because I hear, the Holy Roman Empire being principally Germanic, from what I understand. I don't think they were speaking a lot of Latin, except in Catholic church services.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
This religion was founded by Ben Klassen. He was a politician in Florida. In 1973, he decided to create this white man's ultimate religion, and declared himself the Pontifex Maximus, or high priest.
Right.
And it took off from there, and it's just gotten bigger and bigger over the years. They have dwindled in numbers at certain times due to legal issues and things like that. The one guy that took over the church, Matthew Hale, was convicted of trying to assassinate or hire someone to assassinate a federal judge, and he is now serving 40 years in prison.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
The church kind of broke up after that, and there's a bunch of different little groups that say they're not connected, but they are, because they're all connected to the Creativity Alliance, which claims to be separate, but it's the hub for everyone else.
Well, just the name of alliance makes you think there's several groups involved.
Yeah. Now, they do have creativity skinheads that don't really practice all of the tenets of the creativity religion, but they are still affiliated with the, with the church part of it.
Are those the militia? Are they like militia members for all intents and purposes, or?
Sort of, yeah. They claim that they're their own group because, some of them do still eat meat and they smoke and they drink. So they're not actual members of the church, but they follow some of the religious tenets of the church.
Sure. Now,
the reason why they don't go by World Church of the Creator anymore is because the federal judge that they tried to have assassinated granted a lawsuit to a Christian church and told this white racist religion they are no longer allowed to use that name because it's copyrighted.
Oh my. Oh my. Well, if there was a reason to kill a judge, I guess, copyright infringement going the wrong way for you. I guess that would be it, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So without getting into all 16 commandments, can you tell me one of them or maybe two of them?
Oh, geez. I don't think I can. I can't remember them verbatim anymore.
Right. Well, which is good. That shows a certain amount of growth.
Yeah. I for everybody watching this, I actually forced myself to try and forget the indoctrination that I had from this cult because it was that bad. I've literally tried to force that out of my head. Yeah. So now I kind of go back every now and then, and I have to get a refresher to do videos to debunk these people.
Yeah.
And that's hard on me sometimes. Like, Amber, my wife, who's in the chat, she can tell you I did a couple of videos on them and I had to take like a week off and put myself back together. These people are not good in any way.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people who are atheists, but they're maybe second generation atheists, they were brought up atheists, they don't understand, a lot of the burden that those of us who were raised in faith really, have suffered, and what we carry with us. It's prominently displayed in people who are ex-Muslims and ex-Hindus, from what I've seen. But also, I think the more radical the sect, or the more fundamentalist the sect, the more that burden wears on a person.
Yeah, definitely. And I went from being raised Catholic to becoming an atheist and then getting sucked into this madness and then deciding, okay, I'm not an atheist because I'm believing this insanity here. Technically, I'm an agnostic now, but I desperately wanted to be an atheist again once I figured out how much harm not only this was doing to me, but the harm that I was doing.
Right.
I walked away. I was done.
Sure. You were saying that you're raised Catholic. Your parents were Catholic?
My father was, yeah.
Yeah.
My mother was a pot smoking hippie, and I don't really talk to her anymore. Yeah.
I hear that.
Issues.
Yeah, I hear that. I stopped talking with my parents years ago. So, and I totally respect that.
Got to get some coffee.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. So, so you grew up Catholic.
Yeah.
You went through confirmation and everything?
Oh yeah, I went to confirmation, CCD, the whole 9 yards. I did all that for a long time.
Right.
Then, I graduated high school when I was 16, and I enrolled in a school you might remember, Amherst Theological Seminary.
Oh, yeah. Is that in Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Wow.
I am an ordained minister. And after studying at Amherst, I decided, well, the Bible's bullshit.
Amherst is a really funny place. Amherst, Massachusetts. It is home to UMass Amherst, which has maybe 30,000 college students. It's a huge facility. It is a city within a town or on the outskirts of town.
Yeah.
And then you have Amherst College, which is considered one of the most premier, small liberal arts colleges in the country. Yeah. So being in Amherst and learning about the Bible and getting your degree in that's incredible.
Yeah. Freaks a lot of people out when they hear about that. They're like, what? Oh, wait a minute. I thought you were a white supremacist. Well, that was after I went to Bible school.
Right. Yeah. What was it about learning about the Bible? Was there a particular verse or book of the Bible?
The entire Old Testament.
The entire Old Testament. The entire, just from A to Z.
And then studying, the Apocrypha. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. None of this seems to add up. Like, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm not that freaking stupid either.
And you gotta love how a lot of Christians just try to square that circle, or like Martin Luther was saying, it's like you gotta look at the Bible as like each book is like a pearl on a necklace. I think that was Martin Luther, and they're just trying to harmonize or try to make sense of the crazy book, and that's just not possible.
No, I've tried numerous times. I was devout Christian, and I had that fear. Oh man, these thoughts I'm having, I'm going to go to hell. I can't think like this. I'm going to go to hell. And then I finally decided, you know what? I don't think there is a hell, and I'm not doing this anymore.
That's huge. That's a huge step. That's a huge step. Now you get, so you graduated.
Yeah.
And then with a degree in something that you don't believe in.
Yeah. So then I became an MMA fighter.
Dude, no way. I cannot believe we've been 18 minutes into this conversation. We talked for like a good 10 minutes or 15 minutes before this. And I feel like you buried the lead here. You are an MMA fighter. So tell me about your style, sir. Tell me about your weight class.
I was a middleweight semi-pro MMA fighter. I fought in EFC, a couple other smaller cards. Decided I was going to try and make a career out of that. When I was 19 years old, I had just won a fight in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I was getting offers for contracts to go into some of the bigger names. At the time, Pride was still around. They had contacted me. And after winning this fight in Atlantic City, I went down to my hometown, and I got into an altercation with a gentleman down there. Not going to say his name or anything to protect him and his family. Sure. He was doing something that I did not agree with. He was beating up his girlfriend. I interjected myself into it, and he pulled the knife on me. Unfortunately, I killed this man, and I went to prison for aggravated homicide. First degree intentional homicide was my final charge that they gave me. Basically a first degree manslaughter. Yeah. And I ended up going to Trenton State Prison was my first stop. And that's where I ran into members of the World Church of Creator and started talking to them, because they claimed to be atheists like I was. And of course they knew my background. They knew I had,
fighting skills.
They knew I had training in martial arts and everything, which I have a black belt in Aikido, a black belt in Taekwondo, and a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from Enzo Gracie.
Those are real skills. Those, that Jiu-Jitsu thing, man, that is.
So I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I hit hard.
Those, middleweight guys can move really fast.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything you don't know. They move fast, and if you have knockout power, then you have knockout power. And the weird thing about the human body, right, is that at times it's squirrely. Some guys can take a lot of punishment. I had an ex-girlfriend. Oh my God, this is my second ex-girlfriend story. I'm telling you, Ed. Well, this is another ex-girlfriend, by the way. She had a stepbrother who was in prison, and long story short, he was jumped by two guys. One guy held him while the other guy just knifed him like 7 times. This dude was able to beat up both dudes and then run to the infirmary. So that's one situation of I don't even know how that happened, in the fact that how he was able to survive that. And then there was this other guy who was just on his bicycle talking to his boss, who was in a car. The car just drove off, kind of just nipped him, just tapped his bicycle. He fell over and gone. Just something in his head exploded, basically. And it's weird, dude. It's how the human body responds to punishment.
I've had fights where guys were just teeing off on me, and I was just taking it until they got worn out. And then I've had fights where somebody caught me with one shot and I went to sleep.
It's freakish in that way. So you're in prison.
So I'm in prison. I started off with a 30-year sentence. Now, let me clarify this. When I killed this gentleman, I knew I was going to jail. Yeah. I knew this kid. We grew up together. His dad was a state police officer.
Well, there you go. That's probably why this guy felt like he could beat his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Because his dad was,
When I killed him, I made the mistake of running. I fled the scene. And that did not help my case at all.
No. How could it?
I tried to steal somebody's car in the process of running from the cops. So I had a robbery charge tacked on top of that. I did eventually overturn my homicide conviction that was thrown out by the federal courts. That no longer shows up on my record. But it took me 12 and a half years to get out of prison.
That's a long time.
Yeah. In that time, not only did I join this church of, World Church of the Creator, I started my own prison gang called State Prison Skinheads. I was one of the original founding members. And people ask me about that. A lot of that came from racism directed towards me from Nation of Islam, Black Hebrew Israelites, the 5% Nation. And I was like, well, this is prison. I guess this is how it is.
Right.
And I got sucked into that culture of, this Jewish Illuminati and how, the Nazis were right and blah, blah, blah. And go ahead.
I imagine in prison, you don't really have a lot of ways to cite, to look at peer-reviewed articles.
No.
To back up whatever these guys are saying to you. So you're like, oh, okay, that's how it is, and that's how it is. Yeah.
And like I've told people before, creativity, the Church of the Creator, they're insidious in such a way that it's you have to really go in depth and look at this, because they have documentation of different scientists and things like that they manufacture to fit their narrative. They have stuff that says, oh, well, this guy proved that blacks and Jews and other races are separate species. That's not how evolution works, though.
No.
None of this is true. But if you're a kid and you're talking to somebody who's 30, 40 years old, and they're telling you this, and you don't have any way to look at something else that debunks it, they're going to get you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I remember the moment that when I was a kid, when I was in my teens, maybe even early 20s, and it's like, wow, there's a lot of so-called adults that are they're just off the boat. They're just like crazy, and or at the very least, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and like I said, they have this belief in nature, but it's a pseudoscience belief in nature.
Oh yeah.
It's really twisted. I mean, I could go on for hours and hours about that, but nothing they present is actual fact. It's their belief of nature.
Sure. Right. So I just want to back up a little bit. So you're in prison, you get approached by the church. Now the church isn't officially a gang at this point. It's just
no, they're a recognized religion in the United States.
Sure.
They weren't necessarily gang members. They were part of the prison outreach program. Say
that again. They're a part of and explain to me. I'm rubbing this vein here in my head.
Explain to me what the prison outreach program. These gentlemen were considered prisoners of war because they had done actions and deeds to promote white supremacy. And according to them, the only reason they violated the Jewish law is because it's written for and by Jews and not for the white man. And we are at war.
Okay. So many questions. So many questions. So let's say I was going to ask an innocent question, which might get my ass kicked in prison. I don't know if I was going to ask these guys. So the Bible.
Yeah.
It seems to be full of Jews.
Yes. That's why the World Church of the Creator is the most anti-Christian church in the world.
All right. Anti-Christian. They're not just like non-religious. They are anti-Christian.
No, they literally preach. One of the things they preach is that Christianity is a suicidal religion created for the sole purpose of destroying the white race.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So under that reasoning, and let me just see if I connect the dots properly. Let me guess. Jews made Christianity.
Yes.
To undermine white people.
Yes.
Very good. All right. So when people say things about Judeo-Christian ethics or morality or history, it is very clear to them that is just the enemy. There is nothing good there. That's fascinating.
Yeah. You don't ever listen to the teachings of the Bible because, true white men would never turn the other cheek. That is a suicidal belief.
Right.
In a way, I agree with that. You punch me in the face, I'm going to knock your teeth out.
Yeah.
But
as a child, I tried to live as the the turn the other cheek type, and that didn't work out for me in any circumstance.
No, but those are ideas that they use to draw people in and say, we're going to teach you how to defend yourself. We're going to teach you how to protect yourself from all of these enemies out there saying that you're a horrible white person.
Wow.
And they draw people in.
I can definitely see why they would be gaining, or they would be popular in the current political, social environment that we're in right now.
And especially in prison when white people are the minority behind bars.
Right. So is there a system that they have to once people get out of prison with these beliefs and skill sets, because let's face it, there are skill sets you get in prison.
Yeah.
But once they're out of prison, does the church have a way of utilizing them within its structure? Is it not? Oh, okay. Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yes, most definitely. They have all kinds of programs set up. And that's one way they recruit literal soldiers in prison is they tell you, listen, when you get out with your record, it's going to be hard to find a job, a place to live, everything else. So when you get out, here's all your contact information for people that you need to call to help get you set up and get you back on your feet. We're going to pay for your bus ticket to go to wherever, we're going to put you to work. You're going to live amongst us and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of guys jump on that because, I would. That's a really good offer.
If I'm just getting out of jail and I have $2 in my pocket and I have no family, or the family I have I don't want to communicate with, then desperate people do desperate things.
Yeah. So they get you out on the street, and a lot of times one of the first jobs they give you, and this is where we need to kind of take a really close look at all of these religions that the United States is approving. Yeah, they pay you through the church, which is taxed or is untaxed, being a religion. They will pay you through the church to go out leafletting and promoting their religion and their hateful ideas. And they'll pay you to do that until they can get you a regular 9-to-5 job.
Sure. So here's a question. Does the church have communities within, let's say, towns or cities? Are there compounds outside of cities? I'm curious.
Certain ones just live right in town, amongst everybody else. They do have, as far as I know right now, their latest headquarters is in Oregon somewhere. It used to be in Peoria, Illinois.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There are a couple of different little compounds run by certain, and they call themselves creators. So there are a couple of compounds that are run by certain creators, and like Montana, doesn't surprise me. All the nutballs want to go to Montana.
Not surprising at all.
Yeah. And, a couple of other places. I think there's one in Arizona. I've lost touch with most of these people and groups. I'm considered a race trader.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, they're not to have any contact with me unless they're sending me a death threat. So,
well, that was going to be one of my questions, to tell you the truth, and that's jumping ahead a bit. But definitely, you're out. You're out of the system. You're out of the church. How long have you been out for?
I left the church officially in 2004.
All right, so it's been quite a bit of time now.
Yeah, it's been a while. Not too long. I was released from prison in March of 2004, and I completely stepped away from the church in June of that year.
Oh, wow. So what do you think made you, or what was the thing? What was the characteristic? What was the variable that got you out of the church when a lot of other guys just go into the system once they leave prison?
Yeah. Education.
Yeah.
I came across some stuff about, evolution and actual science, and started looking into history. History was one of the biggest things because I am actually a history buff. My wife, Amber, gets on me all the time about, oh my God, history's so boring. And I'm like, whatever, I enjoy it. And reading through actual history got me to change a lot of those ideas, because they preach this pseudo history about, Christianity being the downfall of the Roman Empire and destroying everything white and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, no, none of that is true.
Yeah. None of that is true. Well, it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. Congratulations on being out, and being out so quickly too.
Well, thank you. It wasn't really that quick. I officially joined the church in 1994. So
Wow.
I spent 10 years in this organization before I finally got out.
Yeah.
Now, to be honest, I did hold on to a lot of my racist beliefs, and I did stay a member of state prison skinheads. Although I was released, I was considered a civilian conduit.
A civilian conduit.
Yeah, I was considered a member of SPS, even though I wasn't in prison, because SPS is a prison gang.
Right.
But being on the outside now, I was able to send funds to some of the members that were still in prison. And I was able to help them out with legal stuff and, things like that. So if anybody needed anything, they could contact me or anybody else who was SPS that had been released.
Well, I can see how that would be more difficult to get out of, since that was the group that you founded.
Yeah. And like I said, I did still hold a lot of, racial beliefs because of the things that I went through in prison with, Nation of Islam and the Black Hebrew Israelites and things like that. And then slowly over the years, I was like, you know what? That's just them along with white supremacists. Like, that's not every Black person. That's not every minority person. I slowly started turning myself around. And in 2012, I contacted them and told them, look, I'm retiring my patch. I don't want anything more to do with this. I'm done. I just can't do this anymore.
Well, I'm going to say the obvious thing. It sounds like you've irritated a whole bunch of potentially dangerous people.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't like me, not even a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, now that I have a YouTube channel, a couple of them have actually come across my channel. And I'm kind of back and forth. Like, I don't know if I should keep their comments, instead of just outright deleting them or whatever, because some of these people, I know who they are because they put their actual name on there. And I'm like, yeah, I remember you, and they're like, oh, race trading scumbag. If we ever see you, we'll kill you. And it's like, whatever, you had your chance. You knew my address when I got out of prison in New Jersey.
Right.
So
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So you were talking about evolution. Obviously, the church has some ideas about evolution, about different people being different species, but do they basically have the idea that humanity evolved from other animals, or?
Pretty much, yeah. We're all different species of evolution. Not all of us are actually human. The only real humans are white men. And, they have it broke down to where Black people are Cro-Magnons and Asian people are Mongoloids. And, it's...
I don't know if you ever saw that movie, Spike Lee movie, Django Unchained.
Yeah.
There was a moment that Leonardo DiCaprio's character has a skull out and trying to explain like the ridges of the skull and what this ridge right here makes you stupid.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of science or non-science, the pseudoscience that this seems to be in the same family of. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. That's pretty accurate.
Right. Crazy stuff, man. That is just nutty.
Yeah. They don't actually preach actual evolution or genetics. They're just way out there with their own beliefs. Like I said, this guy Ben Klassen that founded the church, he promoted a lot of his own so-called scientific ideas, but he had no scientific background.
Right.
He did create his own electric can opener, if that counts for anything.
Well, that's tinkering. I think a lot of people tinker. That does not give you the ability to understand biology. No. So Grumpy, Ed Grumpy. I have to ask you. So what's the ultimate goal? Is it white separation? Is it a violent overthrow? Is it race war? Are they looking to get?
It's race war. One of their key phrases is RHOA, which is an acronym for Racial Holy War. RHOA.
Okay.
So that's their ultimate goal. They're waiting for that to happen. And
okay. So
as far as they're concerned, they're the superior race, so they will win just based on that belief alone. Not how that's going to work. But good luck.
So, all right. So let me see if I can wrap my mind around this. Racial holy war happens. For some reason, Russians and Americans, Canadians, white people in those countries are victorious. So what happens to everybody else? Is it just extermination? Is it slaves? What happens? I mean,
exterminate them. They don't believe in slavery. Slavery is what started intermixing the white race with the lower races, which I'm going to say this, as horrible as it sounds, they call them mud races. And if it wasn't for slavery, this country would have been successful. But we tried to integrate slaves and, the First Peoples, Native Americans, whatever you refer to them as. I use First Peoples because I'm told that's what they want. But if it wasn't for white man trying to intermingle the species, we wouldn't have the problems that we have. So they need to be exterminated completely for the white race to live in peace.
Exterminated completely.
Yeah.
Does the church have a playbook on how to help bring about this racial war?
Well, sure. Just keep preaching that message and keep bringing white people to our side and make them see the truth.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
because it's interesting how different groups have different plans, or how they tactically plan to achieve their ends. Right. The Nazis had a very specific, series of plans of taking over Germany. This group seems to be just more of accumulating followers and resources and waiting for the inevitable kind of thing to happen.
Pretty much. Yeah. Keep building numbers, keep building up. And now I've said this before, not everyone in this group is really, stupid. A lot of these people have gone to college. Matthew Hale, the former leader when I was a member, graduated law school from the University of Illinois. So they're not stupid. And a lot of them do still have their Second Amendment rights. So they're building up, ammunition and arms, just waiting.
Right. They're storehousing weapons of all kinds, I imagine, and all kinds of bullets, homemade pipe bombs, maybe. Who knows what else? Then that's the thing that it's interesting that if we're going to do a Venn diagram of where smart is and where crazy is, right?
Exactly.
Because just because you're smart doesn't mean you're not crazy.
Yep.
And vice versa. Sam Harris always likes to talk about our brains being like, I'm going to use an old term, like card catalogs, right? A lot of us older guys remember card catalogs. And you could have a properly functioning kind of like card catalog, except you just pull out one drawer and it's just nothing but crazy in there. So you could be like a functioning person, but except you have these crazy beliefs about reptile people, maybe, right? Or that the moon is I don't know, silver, or any of these other kind of crazy ideas.
Yeah. I have to kind of agree with that. A lot of these people in this movement, and not just creativity, like the white supremacy movement as a whole, a lot of them are megalomaniacs. You know, they don't necessarily, it's my opinion, I can't prove this, but it's my opinion, they don't necessarily believe the message they're putting out. They just want the power that comes with it. They want to control all their little puppets, you know, and
I think that's true for a lot of cults and a lot of unfortunate organizations. Just being the nature of our species is the fact that I know that there have been several studies that have come out to show that sociopaths talented sociopaths typically rise up to the higher echelons of any organization, to tell you the truth. And yeah, they don't believe. In fact, I was just having a conversation with someone the other day, and it's like, yeah, it's clear that there are many prominent personalities on YouTube or in the media that don't believe what they're saying. They're just doing it for the paycheck and for the adoration, the adulation, and all that.
And I have to agree with that. I've been jumping all over some of the social justice wannabes who keep trying to inject themselves into this, you know, race, you know, relations that we don't have in this country at the moment. And I've been telling them, listen, you're pushing a false narrative here. What you're doing is actually making things worse. If you want to help, I suggest you go check out a channel like mine or, you know, other channels and get a little bit of knowledge about racism before you start talking about it, because what you're putting out there is racist.
It's interesting, isn't it? Is that, and once again, I've had these conversations a couple of different times over the last several months. You know, there is something to be said for how do you make societal change? Let me back up. How do you make societal change? And sometimes it's a question of getting, you know, boots in the streets, you know, just getting people in the streets. And unfortunately, what you do when you trade off that, you get social change. Hey, KCA Randy, how you doing? And Joan just left. Goodbye, Joan. It was nice seeing you or talking.
Bye, Joan. Thanks.
Yeah, but so it's this weird combination, right? And I feel uncomfortable being around large crowds of people, right? And I'm not a big, you know, when I have marched in the past or protested, I've always felt uncomfortable, and I've never been a chanter, Ed. You know, to me, I always feel like you start chanting stuff, and it's only a matter of time before you invade Poland, right? Yep. I mean, it's just something I am not involved with, that I don't like doing, though I'll show up. But the thing is, to make real societal change, you know, getting boots on the ground or getting boots in the street does help. But on the other hand, it just creates a stupefaction. That's not a word, but a stupefying effect. Yeah, that's what it is.
You have to be careful which boots you're putting on the ground. Yeah, because as much as I want to support the message of, you know, Black Lives Matter, there are people in that, you know, category that are supremacists in their own right.
You're right. And there is no doubt about that. I would, and I've been thinking about this too, because I've been hearing arguments back and forth. I would say that it is the cost of doing business, unfortunately, of these mass movements, that you're going to have people that are just distasteful.
Yeah, and you have to be aware of that. You have to recognize that and distance yourself from them if at all possible.
Yeah, exactly. And it's difficult. I mean, so it's one thing to go marching in a protest. It's another thing, I think, to say, to agree with, you know, like a few people within leadership's weird ideas, right? You can say, well, I'm here for this thing. And once this thing gets, because I think we can all agree that police brutality, it's not a good thing. You know, it's not a good thing. And unfortunately, the police have shown themselves time and time again to be resistant. I think that's a kind word and a generous word, that the police are resistant to change. And this seems to be the only way anything's going to get done on this. Yeah.
And so you don't have to be nice to police on my behalf. I hate the cops, and they don't like me. I told this story a couple of times already. My wife and I stopped at the grocery store to pick up stuff for dinner. And apparently there was a bench warrant out for me for a unpaid fine of a couple of $100.
Huh.
9 police officers showed up to ask me to get out of the car.
Yeah, dude, that's scary. That's scary. Yeah, that is scary.
We don't get along.
Yeah. Which is just surprising how, Trey Crowder, the liberal redneck, he's a comedian and an atheist too. I talked to him on my old show, and he expressed amazement at how a lot of white people from lower social economic classes, i.e. rednecks, just love the police. And it's like, no, they are the traditional enemy of people in our status.
Maybe that's the thing. I'm not a redneck. I'm half Irish, half Italian from South Jersey. So go figure. Right.
So what do you got coming up on your YouTube channel? You got anything interesting coming up?
Man, I got a busy week. Tomorrow I am actually doing an interview questionnaire with the Rand Corporation. They want to talk to me about my time as a white supremacist and see if we can come up with ways to help de-radicalize people and get them out of supremacist movements and hate groups. Not just white supremacist movements, both sides of the argument. Let's see. Wednesday, I'm going to be chatting with, who am I chatting with? Oh yeah, your friendly neighborhood atheist channel. I'll be doing that Wednesday.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll be putting out a video of my own on my channel this week sometime if I can fit it in there. And then Friday, I have one of my subscribers, Paul Camish, coming on my channel just to kick back and chat.
Fantastic.
So keep an eye out for the updates. I can't remember all the times for this crap.
Oh, I understand. It's difficult to keep you. You're working 40 hours a week too. I heard you're working.
No, I'm unemployed at the moment.
Okay. It was an older video.
Yeah, I have a whole lot of back issues. I've broken my back a couple of times. I broke my neck twice.
Jesus Christ.
And trying to find a job at like a gas station or Dollar General or anything like that is not going well because I do have a record from 1990 freaking 1.
Jesus Christ. That's hard, dude. That's hard.
So it's hard, but we're making it. Amber's still working from home. Good. I got a bunch of people supporting me on Patreon, thanks to Chris Atley giving me a shout out on Six Pack. I can't thank you people enough for all the support that I get in this awesome community. It's amazing.
Good. That's fantastic because you do worthy work and it is worthy of being supported. I have to ask you, Ed, before we start doing plugs and where people can find you online, is there a question you wanted me to ask you that I didn't? Was there a topic you wanted to chat about but we didn't get to? And once again, this isn't about plugs or your Twitter handle or anything like that, but generally, was there something you wanted to talk about but we didn't get to? Yeah.
How do you try and talk somebody out of being a racist?
Yeah.
My best advice is listen to what they're saying. Everybody in the social justice movement is saying, well, you have to listen to what minorities are saying. At the same time, minorities need to listen to what supremacists are saying, not just white supremacists, any supremacists. Listen to what they're saying, because a lot of these people do this out of fear. And if you can alleviate that fear, you might be able to change their mind and find yourself not only an ally, but a friend.
I will say, just to add on to what you just said, I will say that whenever somebody asks or says something to me that's just crazy, and instead, and I have this stunned fish look, and instead of going right to stunned fish look, I'll go like, tell me about that or explain that to me. Because I think the first reaction might be to try to shut them down, but I would want to hear what they say so I can come up with clever lines, maybe like violent atheist vegans, which You see, you're laughing, and in my opinion, if I can get someone to laugh, then there's a greater chance of them listening to me, and most importantly, not hurting me. That's what I'm really looking for now. Physically hurt.
And I will tell you this from experience: approach a Nazi with care.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Wise words indeed. Grumpy old dude, where can people find you online?
You can, of course, find me on YouTube. I have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. My group is open to the public. Same with my page. You can look for me on Twitter under Grumpy Old Dude 8.
Cool.
Yeah, and I want to plug my little symbol back here that I made. This is to signify all colors but no colors. We are all one human race, regardless of your ethnicity, gender identity, whatever. We are all human. We share 99% of the same DNA.
Yeah. You're going to have to come on the channel so we can explore that topic more deeply, because I have different ideas about that. Living in America.
You're always thinking of something over there.
Well, nothing but trouble, Ed. That's what I do. I just, whether it's my blog or on here, I just consider myself to be a troublemaker. That's all. And I have other troublemakers on my channel. So
I was just going to mention that, and I'm sorry to all the troublemakers in the chat. I had to shut, the YouTube stream down. It was messing with my feed here. So sorry I wasn't able to chat much, but we like yous all. I don't know if I'll say I love you all except for Amber, because that's my wife. And yes, I love her. The rest of yous, I'll take you.
Well, you have to say that you're in love with Amber. There's a legal contract there.
Well, yeah. I swore to that when I put this ring on. So.
Right. Well, dude, thanks. Like I said, you can come on the channel whenever you want to. We'll just talk and shoot the shit or whatever. Hey, Blazing Wizard Pope. And on that note, I will bid you adieu, and I'll say goodbye. Thanks for everyone who was watching and commenting in the chat. I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching, guys.
All right. Take care.